Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the AutoCrit Start Strong Writing Challenge. We are so excited you're here because today we are going to unveil the final twist for your story content. We are also going to talk about the submissions that are opening up this weekend, and we will pull up the AutoCrit Writer's Desk and show you how you would submit your stories. Don't worry, everything you need to complete your challenge is 100% free. We are going to give you, if you have not already signed up and you want to jump on this boat and crank out a story real fast before the submissions open, we are going to give you all the tools that you need for free. So you can hop on into AutoCrit, go ahead and write your story, get it all polished up, and then submit it for consideration. Again, it's 100% free to join. This is a reminder of our timeline. We are on the January 21st second twist at this point. If you would like more details on the past twists, we're going to go over them on a broad overview today, but you can also go watch the replays from the last couple weeks here on our YouTube channel to go even deeper into what we're looking for in those regards. On the 24th at 11:59 a.m. Eastern Time, the submission portal that we're going to show you how you'll access today will officially open for your submissions. You will then have until 11:59 p.m., midnight-ish, on January 26th to go ahead and submit those stories. On the 28th, we'll be back with the finalists for you to vote on live. And of course, you do retain 100% rights to all your work. So here we are coming up on the finish. Let's talk about, again, briefly, what we're looking for in these stories before we unveil the new twist, and then talk a little bit about how we're going to incorporate this and how we're going to finish this challenge strong. We are looking for a 1,000-word story. It should be one complete story with a clear beginning, middle, and end. It should be self-contained. That means no cliffhangers, no first chapters, no excerpts from a larger book. There's a obvious tell when we get a first chapter or an excerpt because there's missing context, either on the front end or the back end for a piece. Now, if you want to take your 1,000-word short story and turn it into something bigger, by all means, that's exciting. Go for it. But for the sake of this challenge, we don't want to be left hanging, wondering what's going to happen next in a story we may never read, here, at least not here in the Start Strong Challenge, right? So please make sure it's self-contained. And we are doing a hard limit at 1,000 words. These 1,000 words are going to be determined in the AutoCrit system by our word counter, which counts the exact number of words you use. It's not a add the character number together and divide it by 5 deal like some of the other platforms out there. So please double check your word count. You should not be putting your title or name in your file, so that should not be taking up your word count. The title should be put in the title slot in the top left corner. I'll show you where that goes today. And your name should be left off. This is a blind judging. If it's 1,001 words or over, it's not going to be considered even if it's fantastic. So watch that word count. The theme needs to be something about whimsy. This can be innocent, sweet, childlike whimsy. This can be magical, adventurous whimsy. This can be horror-esque. We've mentioned Pan's Labyrinth a couple times. Whimsy, we want to see your spin on whimsy. The first week, we announced that the required content means the story should take place inside of an abandoned laundromat for at least 75% of the story, physically in the laundromat. There has to be an actual pinwheel or whirligig, the object present inside the story somewhere. And then you also have to use waltzing, waltzed, or waltz, the verb version that refers to the dance. So they waltzed right in, or I don't just waltz up here, is not going to work. There needs to be dancing of some kind, and it needs to actually be happening on the page in the story, not something figurative or symbolic or something they dreamed about. We need to actually see some physical dancing. In week 2, your first big twist was the abandoned laundromat must be a gateway to something else. Now, we did clarify last week, and you can go watch last week's replay for even more clarification on how this could be incorporated, that this does not mean another world. We are not pinning you into a sci-fi or fantasy genre here. It can be a gateway to catacombs, to tunnels, to an old building that nobody knew existed. Whatever you want to do to tie this into your genre's theme is what we're looking for, but it cannot be another part of the actual laundromat. So if a laundromat would normally have an office, a bathroom, the main washroom, and an employee break room, then it's not a gateway if they go into the laundry room, right? Or it's not a gateway if they leave the laundry room and go to the office. This needs to be a gateway to something. Maybe it's a hidden room that wouldn't normally be there, or something like that, a scary basement. Whatever it is, though, make sure your abandoned laundromat is a gateway to something else. And if you do go otherworld with it, make sure that the majority of the story, 75%, is still in that laundromat and not in the new place. Your final twist here is going to be technical. We're not going to change your actual story content anymore by giving you plot twists or character twists or world building twists. Instead, we're going to focus on what we call showing versus telling. Now, showing versus telling is super important in your work as a writer in general. So this is going to hopefully stretch those editing muscles and those strong writing muscles a little bit for you. The act of showing versus telling means that you give us immersive setting descriptions or emotional descriptions that anchor us in the scene alongside the characters, and we can see visually what is going on instead of telling us in summary fashion what is going on. We like to say summarize. We like to say dramatize, don't summarize. Your telling sentences for your story should be within 25% of your story genre's average in AutoCrit. And we are going to show you how to select your story genre in AutoCrit here and where to run this report, which is again free for the challenge. It is not normally free, but we have opened it up specifically for this challenge. So this is your chance to go give it a try. We're going to walk through how you would make these adjustments if your telling sentences, which is your count in red on the bottom, is too high or too low. So what is showing versus telling? Again, we just said we're dramatizing, not summarizing in an ideal world. We want our readers to be immersed in the scene. We want them to be able to draw their own conclusions. Now, of course, there's going to be times where we have a younger audience that needs a little bit of a nudge. We see more telling, summarized sentences in middle grade and young adult works than we do in adult books. And sometimes it's okay to have a tell to really drive a point home about how someone is feeling. But most of the time, we can imply emotions and reactions through facial expressions, through tone of voice, through body language, and other actions going on in the scene that are easier to visualize. Take, for example, he could tell she was angry if you were trying to describe this picture on the left-hand side immersively. So on the left-hand side, we have this couple. There's a lot going on. We are oversimplifying it by just saying he could tell she was angry. And that's not necessarily the strongest writing point we could use here. He could is one of our potential words showing that there is some summarizing going on here. He could tell she was angry. What is it about her that makes him know she was angry? When you go through your showing versus telling report and you go through the sentences that were flagged, you have to ask yourself, can I visually see in my head, or could a reader see what made them draw this conclusion? Because that is what we're trying to demystify. We want to be swept up in the tale and not be broken out of it and feel like we're just being told something at a distance or at arm's length. So in this case, she turned her back to him, one hand curled into a fist in her lap. Her jaw is clenched, her shoulders tight. She put space between herself and him on the couch. These are all things that come together to give the impression she's angry without necessarily saying she was angry. If you are going to keep your telling sentence, maybe you're running a little light on your telling summaries, then summarizing after a show is an ideal thing. So, I want us to move away, he said. A gasp escaped her. She turned her back to him, one hand balling into a fist on her lap. Her teeth were clenched so hard that he could hear them grinding. He could tell she was angry. He had never seen her so angry would be an even stronger summarizing tell. So let's take this and show how you can pull all of this together using the AutoCrit reports. Here we are. So this is AutoCrit. If you have never seen it before, AutoCrit is a platform that is designed to help you plan, write, edit, and format your novel for publication, either self-publication or for querying, whichever you want to do. It works with short stories, it works with novellas, it works with novels, it works with fiction and nonfiction of all different kinds. What we are going to want to use for our challenge, both for the writing and for the submitting and for the showing versus telling report, is all going to be over here in this left-hand writer's desk tab. And if you're not an AutoCrit Pro member and you want to try all the Pro member goodies, we have a link for you. We'll drop that in the chat. We have a special running right now on our Pro member perks. So you can run other reports similar to how showing versus telling is usually a Pro member report, or come to our Pro member live events, which are led by the same instructors who teach in our AutoCrit Academy, and come connect with us there all through the year. But today, everything again that you need for this challenge is free. So you're going to come into AutoCrit. If you have not already written your story here, you're going to either upload the file that you currently wrote it in, or you're going to create a blank document. Files can be uploaded as docx, .txt, or .rtf files. Please keep them unformatted, plain text files. Then blank documents down here is where you'll come if you're going to write your 1,000-word story right here from scratch. Or if you want to copy and paste, you can do that as well. The title slot is in the top left corner. So if you double click up here in the top left corner, you can backspace and say something like challenge title. Please do not then come down here in the body of your text and put challenge title. That's going to put 2 words, as you can see right here, toward that 1,000 word count, and every word matters. We don't need your name in here either. Just go ahead and start us off on the actual story itself. As you can see, the words that you put in the system are updated here under word count. This total word count button on the right-hand side is what we are going to be looking at when we determine whether you are under that 1,000 word ratio. So if you upload your work in from somewhere else, double check that word count box, remembering that other platforms that don't count exact words and only estimate it by adding all your characters together and dividing it by 5 may end up with a little extra words. And so you may have to trim a little more. Don't wait till the last minute to upload your file, please. We don't want you rushing to cut anything out or fix anything around or run it through the showing versus telling report. Now, all these reports here do different things. We are specifically going to be in the strong writing category today to work through showing versus telling, but there are a few other unlocked reports on your participant membership if you want to dabble in them, as well as a free trial of our story analyzer, which is not usually available to free members. So you can give that a one-time trial for up to 10,000 words if you'd like, for developmental editing type feedback for plot, character development, world building, and things like that. So here we have our showing versus telling is under strong writing. Before you click the button though, because I know we're eager to click the button and to get started, we need to choose our genre. So you can see in the top right corner, that I have my genre set as fantasy. If you don't write fantasy, you want to write something else, or if you come in for the first time and it's loaded to general fiction, you can click on the genre with the pencil in the top right corner where it says comparing with genre. From here, you're going to choose your genre. And this is not, again, restricted to fiction. So if you're writing a story based on something from a memoir, and not just an excerpt, but something you actually wrote for the challenge that meets all the requirements, you could do memoir. We have business. We have historical fiction. We have thrillers. We have actions. We have so many things in here. Young adult. And you would click select next to the one that you want to run. Once you have done that, the system will know to run its comparisons to the industry standards that are normally seen in a story this size for that specific category, because every genre tells and shows a little differently. Romance does a little more telling than fantasy, and horror does a little more telling than sci-fi. And there's some genres like young adult that do way more telling than most of the other genres all put together. So make sure that you choose the correct one. Don't try to cheat the system, though, by choosing a genre that your book is not. If we open your book and see, or your story rather, and we see that your submission is obviously a sci-fi, it takes place in space and there's AI running around, and you listed it as romance and there's no love interest, there's no happy ending, there's no couple trying to get together, then we might want to adjust that to see what it would be through sci-fi, because we want this to be as fair as possible. So try to actually do your genre what it's supposed to be. And it's okay if that's challenging. That's the point of our challenge. So let me back out and pull up a short story I wrote, and I will show you exactly how this will work in a story. So this short story is 941 words. Under strong writing, I'm going to switch this back to fantasy because mine is not young adult and I don't need all that extra leeway that goes into young adult. I'm going to go to showing versus telling. AutoCrit is 100% web-based. That means you can use it on any platform with a web browser usually. I use it on my phone a lot using the Google Chrome app. You can also use it on your laptop, your tablet, your desktop, whatever you would like. So you would sign into your AutoCrit account, put your story here, and then run this report. And you're going to see the top line. This top section is showing you how many you have overall versus how many your genre would typically have. Fantasy in a story this size would normally have 19 summarized telling sentences. I have 16. My goal for this challenge is to be within 25% of 19. So I can be under or over by about 4.75 sentences. About 4 sentences is what I'm going to give myself to be safe. So I can be under this, I can go all the way down to 15, or I can go over this to 23 and be safe either way. I'm going to say that again. Either under or over, both have to be within 25% of this top score, the 19, or in your case, whatever it shows you should have for a word or a piece that size. So if yours says 20, then you have to get yours down to somewhere between that range. So I've got 19 here, 4 sentences over, 4 sentences under. I'm at 16, so I'm safely within the 25% window. Now, if you come in here and you've picked a genre where there's hardly ever any kind of telling at all, and then it says you have 12, well, you don't get to go up to 16, because if we go for 25% of 12, then we only have 3 to play with. And if that's the case, I'm over. I could only go up to 15. I now need to cut out a sentence from my piece. So this is going to be subjective, and I hope this is going to be a good writing exercise for you to learn the industry norms a little bit. And you may be surprised if you read what you wrote, like read the genre that you wrote a lot, how easily the style can pick up automatically. I have not run this through showing versus telling until we were getting ready for this challenge. This is just a story I read a long time ago. So here it is. It works great. It matches up what it's supposed to. I don't want to cut much else out, even though there are still some instances where I use, if you look down here on the bottom of the screen, it'll break down how many times you use these specific telling indicators. There's still a couple instances where I overuse get, could, noticed. Typically, those words wouldn't be used as much, if at all, in this genre, but I'm keeping them because I don't want to drop below 16, and because some of this is my own unique author voice. Keep 15 to 25% of editorial feedback when it comes to similarity, right? Which is what we're doing here. Not that it's bad to have, take that word and throw it away. The similarity score means how closely you write to the average. It's okay to be 15 to 25% different than the average for your own unique author voice. So for these, I'm pretty much going to ignore them. I am going to click through my coulds and make sure I'm not doing anything repetitively, because why do I have 5 of those? And when I click on it, you see it is repetitive. Maybe she could reach it. Maybe she could get help if she could jump from the treadmill to the higher balcony edge. She could check. Do I want to make some of these something different? Do I want to take them out? Well, if I take them out, I might have to work in some other things. I now have a decision to make that's a creative decision. And it's one of the things that I really love about AutoCrit as a tool, as a writer, is that we are in full creative control of our work. None of AutoCrit's tools will generate text for you. It will not write or rewrite any portion of your work. And we don't use our members' work to train our system. So your work is secure, which is nice as well. We have an editorial algorithm that is going to give you these scores today for this. It is 100% algorithmic. There's no generative AI involved in this specific report that you are looking at. We do have some AI-driven reports for the developmental editing side when you go over to the analyzer and you look at our fiction story builders and nonfiction story builders, but most of our technical editing reports are 100% algorithmic. So they're just reading it and comparing apples to apples. How many of these do you have? How many of these does this genre usually have? And the hard part about that, since it's not going to generate content for you, is you have to do the legwork yourself. We have to correct how many of our telling indicators we have ourselves. If you are over, you have too much, start looking for emotions and reactions that have been simplified and expand on why. That is what you're going to replace those with. So I'm going to go here. Try to find a good one that I could replace. She finally noticed something was amiss. Technically, this is okay, but how had they noticed something was amiss? I could expand on that a little bit. How long ago? What did they do to notice that it was amiss to begin with? They say that it stinks. What does that mean? How long has this been going on? And I do try to expand on that, as you can see in the sentences around it, before and after it. But if I didn't, that would be a cue. Hey, Catherine, you need to expand on this a little bit more. You need to tell us a little bit more of what's going on. Dramatize this. Show us. Bring us into this scene. Don't just summarize it and go, he was angry, she was happy, she was mad, he noticed this, she saw that he wasn't going to be there. Well, why? How did she make that impression? What was it about it? Did he have his suitcase in his hand when he walked out the door? She saw he wasn't going to listen. What does that mean? What tipped her off to that? All of those little summarized things are what we're trying to find by going through these reports. And so if you've overdone them, try taking some of those out with more specifics. If you are under, like me, but you're under too much, then you need to consider adding in some summarization. And one of the things that I would recommend doing for that is highlight your dialogue, which is why mine is gray, and consider expanding your dialogue with a little summarized tell and something perhaps a little shown. So the officer replied from below with a sigh. Stinks. Ah, their cantankerous downstairs neighbor had finally noticed something was amiss. In this case, I'm creating a telling summary that summarizes, oh, now the neighbor notices something's wrong, right? But I'm starting out with something immersive. I'm telling you, officer, it stinks something awful. Elliot's ears twitched. That voice coming up from below the veranda somewhere. It was weak and tired and a tad bit bitter. So here is all my immersive information to make you feel like you're there, to imagine hearing this tone of voice. Here is the quote, and then here is my summarized, here is what's going on, the summarized reaction of what's taking place in the scene. So look for dialogue. That's a good place to start, and see how you could work in more. If you don't have dialogue, then look for action and ask yourself, is this action descriptive? And if it is something there that could be summarized up that drives it home even further? Notice that I don't say that the neighbor had finally noticed something was wrong without that other stuff, because without it, this sentence falls flat. It feels like it's just a summary. You have to have the two pieces together to make this a strong telling sentence, a strong summary, something that wraps the whole thing you've been building into a tiny package and hands it to the reader with a bow. So going back to our slides, when you are seeing a situation like this person who's angry, he could tell she was angry, try to be immersive first if you're short. She turned her back to him, one hand balled into a fist on her lap, her jaw clenched. He had never seen her so angry. In that case, that had never seen her so angry takes this sentence, he could tell she was angry, and adds just enough information to put it in context. In all their years together, this is the angriest she has ever been. Now that adds to your drama. It doesn't take away. It's summarizing what you saw there, but doing so in a powerful way. So let your tells that you do leave be powerful tells that wrap everything up, that drive the drama forward and keep readers leaning in. So if she's never been so angry before, what has this person done, right? Okay, everybody, we're not going to keep you on. We know that you're eager to get going. So just a friendly reminder, once again, you have until the 24th to wrap this stuff up, put a bow on it, and then get ready to submit. In order to submit, you are going to go to AutoCrit, that same writer's desk where we were just in to do our showing versus telling. And on the right-hand side, there is a save button. Before you click submit, make sure that everything on the page looks the exact way you want it to look when it is submitted. How it looks on the page here is how it will look when you click the submit button to us. That includes what's in the title. That includes the body of the text. That includes the comparing with genre. It is going to freeze exactly the way it is and send it over as your submission. So you cannot edit it once it is submitted. Make sure that you are happy with the final version. Do a scroll down to make sure the whole thing's there, and then do your submission. You're going to come in here on the 24th, click on the save button, and go down to our submissions portal. Within here, as you can see, we've got a homework thing going for one of our courses right now, but within here, we're going to add Start Strong Challenge submissions, and that will not be available until time to submit on the 24th. So keep an eye out. You're going to have a little time to finish up without the stress, and then you're going to come back. You'll click on the checkbox to the left of the Start Strong Challenge submission folder, not one of the course homeworks, or it won't get to us. It'll be put on one of the homeworks instead on accident, and then you're not going to be considered for the submission. So make sure you're checking the marking on the Start Strong Challenge one. After that, it should tell you, so I'm going to check mark this one, that your submission to Fiction Forge Week 3, your submission to the Start Strong Challenge has been received. And that will pop up in the top right corner as long as you do not have your pop-ups blocked. If you have pop-ups blocked, you may not get the confirmation. But you can only submit one time. So if you don't see that message and you're not sure it went through, go back to submissions and you should see this is now grayed out. I can't click on it even if I want to. And the checkbox is checked. I can't uncheck it. I can't click it. This means that it is submitted for the judge's consideration. If you still need help confirming, if you don't see that grayed out box, you don't see the checkbox, or you're having trouble getting the file to load through, there's a little help bubble in the bottom right-hand corner of our site right here. You can click this bubble anytime. We are a 100% human support team, and we are happy to help you navigate through AutoCrit, run your showing versus telling report, and things like that. If you have questions about showing versus telling, there's also an information bubble in the top right corner of that report. Clicking that bubble will take you to a page with a little video about what showing versus telling is, and it will give you examples, and it'll walk through exceptions, and hopefully help guide you through that final phase. So you have until the 26th at 11:59 p.m. in order to submit for the challenge. We are excited. We hope that you finish strong. Go get this story, you guys. We can't wait to read them. And take care. Let us know if you have any questions. Bye, everybody.